Fuck you, Dante.
Whatever. Let's go. We're live.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
You are actually one of the intro, part of an intro, one of the intro songs from when we recorded last time. I don't know what we were talking about, but you're like, fuck you, Dante. And I use that whenever there's going to be an episode I know it's going to go off the rails. That's everyone's warning now. Like, if you want to stick around for this, you are welcome to, but understand if you hear JB at the beginning of this, just know that it's gonna get wild. And it's usually the comic book episodes because I like to make my co-host very uncomfortable, so I'll just tell outlandish stories.
Yeah.
But either way, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mets podcast. And we already started talking. We've been talking before I even hit record. We figured last time this guest and I, we got together and talked. We talked for 2 hours before recording and then 2 more hours after recording. So my guest for this episode, though, I'd like to welcome back my good friend who I've missed very, very much, Miss JB, Miss Toni. Which, like, what do you want me to call you?
Like, yeah, I mean, Toni is fine. Tony's fine. It's what everybody else has been calling me forever. Toni, Antonina. But I know that forever I was Jits Bitch, JB, but you know, I abandoned all that social media stuff and I handed it over to a woman. Actually, she's in your area.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you're a tough act to follow. So who did I talk with? Danny Patrick one day. He and I we recorded and I think I put up a post of yours and he goes, have you heard from her? I was like, I mean, like I texted her like a month ago, but you know, like I don't know. Like I'm not sure how to answer that because also I don't like to put like people's business out. If you know, if you haven't heard from them, then I haven't either.
Yeah, so. No, I mean, you know, when you go off social media, and that's the way most people, you know, communicate with you, then you're not going to communicate with those people. But it wasn't, I mean, I did have to tell a couple people initially, like, please fucking respect the fact that, like, I'm going through some shit. I don't want to hold my phone all fucking day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, like, you know, some people were texting. And I was like, this is, or they would text me Instagram posts. They'd be like,
hey, have you seen this meme?
Yeah, I'm like, look,
I need some pointers.
We need to talk.
Like at that point, you're like, look, you might want to go here. We're gonna have an intervention, buddy.
Yeah,
clearly, I didn't need to step away. You need to step away.
It was you. But yeah, I mean, you know, I fucking Danny Patrick, my BJJ is okay. You know, my original Deep Half podcast crew. I've got nothing but love for those guys.
Of course.
Yeah.
But no, well, what was it? I got a message. Well, you know, you kind of briefly popped up for a second, and I thought there were a lot of hackers like popping up on Instagram recently.
Oh yeah.
And I got a message, and I was like, at first I was gonna like bullshit. I was like, if this is a hacker, we're about to have fun. But then it felt like a genuine conversation. I was like, oh shit. Then I had to just text you out where I was like, hey, is that you? Like, okay. Like it's safe territory now.
Yeah, now we know, no. But that's what social media has done too, right? Like, I mean, it's so fascinating what it's done to us. What it's done to us socially. So it just feels like as human animals, we're so hungry for a certain amount of social acceptance reassurance, right? We want reassurance that we are socially accepted. And,
Yeah.
you know, there was a time when that social acceptance came in the form of like deep eye contact and long conversations and maybe a piece of meat over the communal fire with your group of humans, you know? And now it comes in the form of like, we need so much, so much social reassurance and so much like I'm getting attention from people. And it's not even like a conscious thing, like I'm getting attention. It's that I'm safe in this somehow.
Yeah.
But to have it be to this magnitude is just so, so damaging. And if you get upset, like one of my favorite things coming back to the side account has been every time I post something in a story, I gain 3 followers and I lose 4. Or right, you watch the thing happen. And I've just been kind of trying to post stuff hoping that the numbers will just keep dropping. Like, could you unfollow me harder?
You might be the only person I know on social media that wants the followers to go away. Um, yeah, I get messages from people like, dude, how do I get people to follow me? It's like, I don't fucking know. I people I didn't know people were following me. And so one day I looked, I was like, oh shit,
This
that's
blew up.
70 followers. And now it's at a much larger number. I'm just like, okay, all right, this is what we do now. We just fuck around. Like and the fucked up thing is I repost from other people. I do an original post once every 2 months. And my quote unquote original post is just me taking someone else's post and putting it to another picture and saying,
That's all
hey, this
memeing
is,
is.
yeah. It's like, oh, I saw these words somewhere else. Now I'm going to go find a picture that's relatable, take your words, put them here, and then say, haha, oh, and my watermark. And they're like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
dude, do it again.
Effort. That was
But
my
yeah,
effort.
yeah, the,
Tip me.
yeah. Well, Instagram at one point, I don't know what Instagram does now. They're like, here, we're going to pay you. And I was like, don't do that.
Yeah, now. Hold on.
Like, like, please stop. Like, I
Yeah.
like, and then they got mad and said, psych, we're not paying you.
Yeah,
Good.
no. I started getting those offers on the old account too, where it was like, monetize your account. We'll pay you to do things. And if you post reels and if you do this, and it's like, I'm not putting my face out there.
Oh yeah, that was the one that got weird because they're like, I was talking to someone. They're like, yeah, you have to like do videos of yourself, and I was like, no, we're
I'm
not
not
doing
doing that.
that.
I'm not doing
Like,
that.
I don't know. I'm just not like even with the other podcast, my co-host, he's like he wants to do like shit for TikTok and all these other fucking things. I was like, I'm not fucking doing any videos. You can do all the videos you want, but I'm not getting in front of a camera
I'll
for
hold the
anything.
camera while you dance like an asshole in the Home Depot or whatever.
He wanted his girlfriend to be involved, like so he wanted her to be the camera person. And I was like, well, if we're going to use the camera, I mean, I got fucking camera stands and everything. We don't need a person with shaky arms fucking holding the fucking camera, making people
Oh,
nauseous.
that makes it more exciting.
Maybe not for me. Like, only thing it does for me is I started judging you. I was like, yo, is that Michael J. Fox holding the fucking camera?
Yeah.
The fuck is going on?
Oh, fuck you,
Yeah.
Dante.
Yes, I got another soundbite.
Oh, I can't believe you just
Oh,
fucking said that. Yes,
dude.
I can.
I was trying not to, and it was like as I'm saying it, I was like, "Don't say Michael J. Fox. Just say Parker. Just say Michael J. Fox."
Just do it. No, it was the right way. You did it the
It
right way.
it felt like it belonged,
Yeah. I mean, I'm here
but
for it.
but
Oh,
but yeah. How have you been?
I mean, come on now. It's been what I was off social media for a year.
Felt longer.
Did it? It was a year. Um, and in that time, I cleaned up so much shit in my head and in my life. And I went back to school. I'm working on a certificate in somatic trauma therapy. Um, yeah, that that's work I'm doing now, which I'm really excited about. Um, I've spent just a shit ton of time not having my face in my phone and meditating and doing everything I can in service of other people and all that sort of thing. And then in the meantime, like the same shit still happens, but I'm able to cope with it better.
Sure, I get that.
I mean, you and I were going to record a few months ago, and I had you know,
Yeah,
like, yeah, some big shit happened in my family. And probably always, whenever you and I are talking, we should just tell people trigger warning.
yeah. It's like, look, like it might start off wholesome and tons of jokes, but let me tell you, at about that 20-minute mark, it's gonna get a little dark, and we don't know when we're gonna get back to the light.
Yeah,
But just know this: there's a happy ending because we're both recording, so we obviously made it out of it.
we're here and laughing. Um,
Okay, that's how you get through. You have to. I'd say you have to be able to laugh at a time. Of like, should we laugh at that?
should we be laughing? Well, that was, you know, I remember recording a podcast where Art from Jitsticks was a guest, and I was telling a story that I thought was fucking hilarious. And he was like, "Can you just not be depressing?" And I was like, "I'm laughing."
I think that's the thing, though. For when you've been through some shit, that's your coping mechanism, though, is to make humor out of a situation that probably to the outside world isn't funny, but we've spent so much time inside of it, we find the humor. um
Yeah.
that's it, though.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I was at was it a Halloween party? Yeah, I was at a Halloween party back in October, obviously not December. And I was, I'm introverted. I don't really fucking do well with crowds. And I found an escape route to the basement. I was like, yes, I'm here. And there are already two people down there. And I was like,
Fuck.
well, yeah, that was my first thought. And I saw who it was. Like, well, this isn't too bad because I know they're just as like introverted as I am, if they might be worse. And the one guy, I knew him. I hadn't really spoken with his wife though. So as we're all down there talking, I started talking about my mom at some point because we were talking about Michigan or some shit. And as I'm going through this what I thought was a funny story, and my buddy, he started kind of chuckling a little bit, but his wife, I look up at her and she's got like these sad eyes. She goes, "Oh, that's so sad." And I was like, "Holy shit!" And I
Whoops.
was like, "I guess I'm going to stop with this story because I thought the next part was going to be kind of the punchline." And I just felt like maybe not. I was like, but that's the thing. People just
Read the
they
room.
like I I don't do that very well. I just felt like,
Yeah,
what?
me either.
This is a goddamn good story. Here's my chance. Let me tell this one. I've been working on this one for a couple weeks, and
Right.
when I got that's so sad, I was like, holy shit.
Mm.
Like, oh no. And then Sarah comes out. Sarah's like, what's going on? I was like, and she was like, you talk about your mom again. It's like, yeah, kind of. So, but that's the thing. People, it's like, again, when you live through some shit, you can either let it control you and be your captor, or you can, you know, find humor in it and just say, look, man, I'm not gonna let this shit ruin my life. And other people on the outside, though, they don't, if they haven't been through it, they may not get that, probably.
Well, no. You know, but I think that, okay, so I'm a massage therapist. I was at work today, and I mean, I'm working at a pretty fancy place in Napa Valley right now. But in the middle of my day, in the middle of all of these pretty pretentious human beings, like in walks this little ray of sunshine who, as soon as I see her, she's like, I feel like I'm on drugs. And I'm like, we're going to get along. Awesome. Because she's been floating through the spa, right? She's like, what the fuck is this world? What is happening to me? And so I get her on the table and I'm working on her, and she's like, yeah, I just feel like my neck's all fucked up like that from all the coke I did. And like,
Well, that makes sense. I get it.
I'm like, yeah. Like, but we're talking. She's like, yeah, I've had 3 DUIs, and I was gonna eat mushrooms before I came today. And she's just like throwing it all out there, and I just like
Sounds
was
like
so
my kind
in
of
love
girl.
with. I was so in love with her, like immediately, right? Like just as this shining human being who was like me. I just have no time for pretense. Let's just be real as fuck. And we were talking about how those of us who have had, I don't know, I like to think of it as like we accidentally or maybe on purpose signed up for the accelerated course, right? Before we were born, we were like,
Just throw me out there. I'll figure it out.
let's see what the fuck, how much can we get through? But there's something that comes from that, a growth in, if you're lucky, you move out of having coping mechanisms and you move into like genuine resilience where you see a much wider picture. You see things from a completely different perspective. And like when shit goes wrong, you're just kind of like, well, yeah, of course shit is going wrong because shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
However, isn't this fucking hilarious? This is ludicrous, right? Like, look at how chaotic or stupid or bizarre, or look at how much this is pushing in on me and what it's making me do in return. I have to grow. I have to level up. It's the only real way out. You have to just keep moving through it. And I think that anyone who hasn't had anything like squish the life out of them, there's no pushback. They don't understand. They just take it all and say, oh, that's so sad.
Well, yeah. That I think, you know, when we see like celebrity, gossip or celebrity BS, and you'll encounter a story where they'll say something that just seems so ridiculous, but for us on the outside, we're like, what? Like get the fuck over it, man. Like you'll be fine. Like
You're gonna be
you know
okay.
like but meanwhile it's like for them it's a crisis, but for us we look at that's not a crisis, my friend. Like that's a fucking Thursday for me. you know
Right.
like you ran out of gas, dude. I do that twice a week. Like, have you seen gas prices?
That's horrid.
Like I didn't siphon enough last week from the other
Yeah,
guy.
my tummy
So
had a tummy ache. Um,
yeah, terrible fucking experience. Won't do that ever fucking
no,
again.
no.
Like,
Anybody who's ever done it knows.
I thought I was so fucking smart. I was like, no, I've seen it on TV before. No, no.
But so I do want
Yeah.
to go back to that though, where there is something about leveling up though, to the point where you've had rough everything around you for as long as you can remember, because then it sort of paints everything that happens even after things smooth out. Right, your nervous system is still primed for like, it's rough, it's rough.
Yeah.
So when we see other people experiencing what they feel like is rough and adversity, it's easy to get stuck in our like, seriously, suck it up, buttercup, you gonna be all right. But
Yeah.
we can't, nobody's going to heal that way. And I think the more often we actually come together, and instead of constantly living in a state of comparison, which is exactly what social media gives you, is constant state of comparison. We're able to just be with people in their experience and meet them where they are from a place of compassion. Like, I know what that feels like. I mean, you can't tell somebody I know what that feels like, but just knowing that what they need right now is just somebody to be like, it fucking sucks, dude. I'm sorry shit sucks for you right now. Like, would you like a $3 cup of coffee? I know this great Indian guy.
I had to go to the $3 coffee.
Yeah, I can do that for you because I know that what you're feeling right now is a hard place. But just as long as you have social acceptance and I'm here, let's go get some coffee.
Do you think when people who've been through just some shit, like, because I'm thinking about like just for me, like coming up, like when I was in Flint, we're all equal. We're all going through some shit, and I don't think we knew that we were going through shit though. We were
You
just kids,
don't. Yes.
We just thought like again, like looking back on an article I read, I want to say it was like 2009, maybe might have been later, but I'm an adult at this point, and this article said Flint, Michigan was the second worst city in America to live in. Now, that's, subjective. This one guy could have went there and was like, this place sucks, but not as bad as Detroit. No, I think Gary, Indiana was number one. It's like, come on, dude, that's where the Jacksons came from. Relax.
You're going to be all right. That's where
You'll be
the
all right.
Jacksons
I
came
mean,
from.
they
They were a well-functioning example of goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. They got through. Everyone came out okay. Everyone,
Every single one of them.
especially Latoya.
Yeah, well, she is fine, actually.
Like she came out the best. I wonder which Jackson did get out the best. I'm gonna have to Google that later.
Yeah.
But but I remember looking back at that article and I was like, the fuck are they talking about? It's so bad there. And then I started thinking about just little things that I was seeing. I was like, I mean, that shit was just regular every day. But then you start thinking as an adult, it's like, I guess you're not supposed to see people getting, fucking mugged or stabbed. This dude we called the Candy Man, because he had a shopping cart full of candy, like full size packs of M&Ms, Hershey bar, shit like that. He was selling candy at a reasonable price for kids. Turns out he was kidnapping kids too. Didn't know that until much later. And you start thinking back on it, I was like, holy shit, wow. Like that dude stopped in my neighborhood 3 times, 4 times a week.
I bought candy from that guy several times and he never kidnapped me. Is there something wrong with me?
So I was going there. Like I started
sorry,
thinking, like, what the fuck's wrong with me? Like he didn't want me. Well, but I mean, I was also a foster kid already, so he probably already looked at me and was like, fuck that guy. One family already got rid of him.
Well, he'll probably stab me.
It's like I'm not fucking taking that guy. He might steal from me. Like fuck you. Like,
I need this candy.
But yeah, I wouldn't have stolen his money. I wouldn't have known any, but I was just taking fucking peanut M&Ms and fucking Nestle fucking Crunch bars.
Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah.
But just like I think about like, the people that you're around. It's like being in that environment with those people. It was like there was never any comparison or one up. And again, we're little kids though, so maybe we didn't really have that ideal in our minds. But once I got to Delaware and then to Columbia, Maryland, that became a thing just all the time. Someone was always going through something, but the next person was like, well, yeah, but I've got it worse. And then the next person, well, I've got it worse. And it was like, wow. Like, and I started thinking about it. What was the one thing that we all kind of had in common there is like, we're all from relatively decent, upbringings in that area. At least the families were, middle-class families, stuff like that. And you start thinking, it's like, wow, I guess, the further down you are on that spectrum, the less you play the comparison game or, this bullshit.
Yes. Yes. Because that like your shit doesn't need to be validated because you spent your early years making things that weren't okay just to survive.
Yeah.
So that is a pattern that we fall into where you're like, nothing's okay, so it's okay, because now it's just a level playing field.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was one kid in my neighborhood. Well, he lived directly across the street from me, and when I was in Flint, I was with a foster family, wonderful family. I still consider them family. I still put the foster in front for some reason, but all the those are my sisters. Miss
Right.
Jones, she passed away April of 2019, and that was my mom. You know, she,
Yeah.
this is still my family, but for some reason I always say foster. Not sure why. It's just a thing. But um, my foster family was a wonderful family, and across the street, and they gave us, they provided for us, no questions
Right.
asked. There's this kid across the street from me. We reconnected on Facebook a couple years back, but this kid, he had everything, all the
Mm.
GI Joes, the
Mm.
Mobile Command Center, the GI Joe, the aircraft carrier, the one that fucking everyone wanted. That joint was like $150. This kid had it. He had Nintendo before everybody. He had a Sega for no reason, but he was the
Fuck
kid.
that kid.
Yeah, I was like, man, fuck this guy. Like, I'll break your house, son.
Yeah.
Um,
Me and the candy man.
but it's like, I'll feed you to the candy man. Back the fuck up off me. Um, but
Horrible.
but he, like, if there's any example, or not example, if there's any like individual in that neighborhood that we could say, oh well, that guy might be better than us, by
Yeah.
whatever standard, it's that kid, because he had everything. Meanwhile, the rest of us, we all eventually got Nintendos. We got the Pro Wings from Kmart, were our shoes. He had Jordans.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
damn, like, he's got like a name brand on his shoes. Our name brand is just like, I think somebody used a stencil and put the shit on with a Sharpie.
I've got Nikes.
Is that Nike? Like, supposed
Something.
to be Nike. Nope,
That's
they
fine.
did not spell that right. That is not a swoosh. That's a check mark. Um, but he was, if anyone was that stood out in the neighborhood, it was that kid. But he, even with him, it was never that game of like, he didn't put himself on a pedestal. He didn't act like he was better than us. Some of us looked at him that way, but he never at any point, you know, played it that way, because he was going through the same struggles we went through in school and in the
Yes.
neighborhood.
He was in the same place, just living his reality.
Yeah,
That's all we have when we're kids. You don't have too much to compare it off of. You're just doing the damn thing.
yeah. I mean, and his parents provided all these things for him. It's not like he went out and got him, and we're mad and jealous about it. It was like, no, I mean, his parents, they got him all the stuff that, not that he would necessarily, I guess he did ask for it, but it wasn't like, just give him everything all at once type spoil him. It was like, you see him with new stuff periodically, but it
Right.
was always the big things that stood out. It wasn't like he get a new thing every day, but it's like when he got a
Right.
big thing, it would stand out over the weeks or the months or years.
Right. He had what the fuck, like real Lucky Charms at his house, and we had Marshmallow Meaties.
Oh, do all his cereal had like
Yeah.
actual colors on the box. We had the government box of cereal.
Yes.
We even have like real cornflakes. Like, I don't know what they those cornflakes were definitely scabs.
What the
Like,
fuck are they? How do you chew
they,
them?
you don't.
Eh.
Like, they were horrible. And then we had like the powdered milk. I remember
Yes.
my
Yes.
foster mom's she remarried, and the husband, I'm not sure how this happened. It was just, I don't even fucking know. Somehow some Kool-Aid, I don't know how the fucking Kool-Aid got mixed in the powdered milk. So when we were making the powdered milk, the shit was coming out pink. And I look, for a kid that grew up with no food, I'm a fucking picky eater, okay? And when I saw that milk pink, knowing it wasn't strawberry milk, I just didn't get my calcium for the week. I was like,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, have you ever had Kool-Aid without sugar? It's you can't do it. It can't be done. It
No,
shouldn't be done.
that's
That's not
no.
for your face. I think that's actually just battery acid.
Like, Kool-Aid with no sugar. I'm not even sure why. Like, well, eventually you just start having the little tubs with it already pre-mixed.
Yeah.
But even still with that, it's like you still had to add a little bit of sugar just to make sure it was just right. You know, you got to get the right amount of diabetes in your life.
Yeah, we've
Um,
been making it on our own this whole time, over sugaring, and then they're like, "Here, eat it at this level," and you're like, "You guys are fucking this up. You're doing it wrong."
it's like this is the baseline amount you should have. It's like says who? Like you?
You
Fuck
can't
out
tell
of
me
here.
what to do.
Let me show you how it's made. I'm gonna go ahead and pour
Stupid
what you got
Kool-Aid.
here. I'm gonna pour 3 more cups of sugar in. Fuckers.
I fixed it.
Yeah. But when I moved in with my grandparents, though, Kool-Aid was not a thing. You know,
Yeah, that's always weird. Yeah. You're like, what happened to my thing?
when I first moved my grandparents down to Newark, Delaware, that shit was weird because I didn't understand. Like when they went to the grocery store, they're like, "Jake, is there anything you want from the store?" I had never had anyone ask me that question
You're
ever.
what?
I was like, "What?" So I said, "Get apple juice." So they got me 4 bottles of apple juice. And that was supposed to last me for like the month.
No. Then you got a tummy ache.
That's one way of putting it. I knocked out a bottle in a day, and let me tell you,
Yeah.
that will never ever happen again in my
No,
life.
that's rough.
It, and for those listening, if you don't know, I wear a colostomy bag. I've worn one all my life, including that time that I drank a bottle of apple juice.
Just saying it makes things a little more complicated.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
that's my time from Flint to Delaware.
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, people.
And adventures in apple juice.
Yeah, don't drink a whole bottle in a day.
Don't do it.
And when I say a day, I don't mean like a full 24 hours or
No.
16 hours or 7, however.
Like
I
3 hours
probably drank
after
this.
school.
Yeah, this was like definitely, a Saturday afternoon. They
Yeah.
get home from the grocery store. I got excited. I didn't put the shit in the refrigerator. I
Yeah.
just started fucking pouring it in a glass and just gulping it down. Like I want to say this might have been an hour and a half, 2.5 hours max, but it was so good.
But it's the best thing I ever put in my fucking face.
Dude, it was so good. Like you're talking about a poor kid who's never had nothing. And you give him like a bottle of apple juice, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Literally.
What? Yeah. What is this life? What is this hell?
I had to readjust. Like mentally, I
Yeah.
had to readjust to that.
Well, I went through that too. You know, through my elementary school years, I lived in Richmond, California and Oakland, California, and it was a certain way, but I didn't know it was a certain way. I didn't know it was a certain way. And then we moved an hour north to the North Bay, and I had culture shock. There were things I did not understand. Other kids would invite me to their really insanely nice, clean houses with food in them, and they would like make me a sandwich. And it was it's just like this. This is just like you come home and like there's food for you and you can have it and it's yours. Um,
Like
and
an
you gave
episode of
me
Mr.
some.
Overdare.
Yeah. Yes. Like it will. Oh God. But even, I think, and maybe this happened to you too. Like during your teenage years, as life continued to improve for you, and you're in contact more and more with people who have different problems. being in high school and suddenly being aware of the stark contrast and having just like no patience for that shit at all. Um, I mean, we moved to a better town, but my parents were still my parents, and then they would like register me for school, but it was always like super late. So when it was time for high school, when it was time for you to choose your electives, of course, any of the electives I wanted were full, so I had to take whatever the fuck was left.
Mm.
And one year I was 15, literally living outside. Um, and they put me in a, I'm trying to remember the name of the communication skills workshop with the class. And we're sitting in a circle and they're like, pass this brick around and tell me how this brick is like your life. Right.
Oh
And it
boy.
gets to the chick sitting next to me who's like just someone I can't relate to at all. First of all, she's clean. Fuck that bitch.
Like, oh, I see that you showered today.
Fucking how was that hot water that comes straight out the wall? Um, fucking asshole. Um, but she was like, this crack right here is where my mom and I got in a fight because she wouldn't let me take the Volvo out last night. And right, like there was this whole thing. Oh man, I legit had walked through the field to school that day and it was so cold there was a crow frozen dead in the grass. You know, I'm dragging my own ass to school. And it's just like, my mom won't let me drive the car. And I was like, I gotta go. I gotta hold this brick. I'm gonna put it in somebody's face. Please. I'm leaving now. But that
These
was
are not
one
my
of those
people.
moments. Yeah, that was one of those moments though where you really start to put, there's perspective, right? Where you're like, holy fuck. I've just been wandering around going, it's just the way it is. And then I'm put in a room with all these people who are like, I'm mad because of things. And I'm like, what?
It's like, that's not a real thing,
It's not a real
though.
thing.
Like, why are you like? That's okay.
Your
They,
mom lets you stay home?
like, oh, you're allowed. You're allowed. You have a key to the
You
house.
gotta, yeah, yes.
Like,
You got a key to
fuck.
your house?
They don't even trust me with the key.
No. Oh, fucking fuck. But so it's, all of these moments in life, and as life continues to go on, there are so many times I'm actually grateful in the most bizarre way for all the things that I've had to come up against. I don't know if you have that,
Oh
where
yeah.
there's like moments where you're like, you know what, thank God. Which, that's also a little bit difficult to tell if that's just a coping mechanism. It's just more making not what's not okay, okay, or if there was actually growth.
I think there's some growth there. I think it's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
um, because I can speak from my experience there as well. As like when you do kind of play back things that you've been through, and if you go through something later on in life that
Mm.
a past trauma can help you get through in the present.
Yeah.
So and the thing is, it's not that you want to go through these things,
No.
but at some point, and that's not to say all trauma. I know, if there's anyone listening thinking, well, I saw this tragic thing happen in front of me, that, that's not going to serve me any benefit later in life. And and the thing is, you know, I've been through some shit. We've all been through some shit. I mean, and I was fortunate enough to get out.
Yes.
So I will always mark that as a thing that, for me, I got lucky. My brothers and I, we got very lucky, and we were taken out of a bad situation, seemingly put into another bad situation, but we didn't know it then. because we just knew that the situation we were in before was far worse. And then we ended up in Flint, Michigan. And that's really weird to say, dude, you went to a city with lead in its water. How is that better than where you were?
You're all
Like, just
trust.
trust me,
Just
it was
trust.
better. It's just far
I don't,
better.
but understand my baseline.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, look, when your base is under the ground, like
Yeah.
you have to
Air's
understand that,
cool.
like once you get to the actual ground level, you're like, holy shit, this is phenomenal. It's like,
You
dude, you're
guys got
still
it
sleeping on
good.
like, yeah, it's like you guys get to sleep in beds, dude. Like I was okay with the fucking ground.
My
Well,
nest.
we just recently had a power outage. Like the day before Christmas Eve, we
Oh,
had a power outage, and it was cold as fuck. It was the coldest I've probably felt in a very long time here. And my wife texted me, was like, "Hey, the power's out," which means we don't have any heat because everything's electric. And I was like, "Well, I'll reach out to my grandma. We're gonna go that way anyway for Christmas, so I'm sure it'll be fine for us to stay there." Although they converted my room right away. As soon as I moved out, they converted my room the next day. I was like, "You're not coming back." So just knowing it's a temporary thing. And she was like, "Well, look, we can, I'll call my mom because we're going there. We go to her family's house for Christmas Eve." So I was like, "Okay, not a big deal. That's fine too. Let's do that." Then I get a text later. Let's just tough it out. And I was like, "Okay, so I'm gonna let you know now. I've lived through tough it out, and I don't want to tough it out. Like I didn't have a choice as a kid, but to tough it out. And right now I have a choice. And
yeah.
it's like, let's go elsewhere. I don't want to stay home." She was hell bent on staying though. And I think that's the thing though. It's like when you haven't been through the shit, it's like, sure, mentally I'm built for it. Doesn't mean I want to go back through it again.
No.
So I'm trying to explain to her, it's like, we don't want to have to spend the night in this house without heat. Like that's just not something that you want to do, especially as cold as it was. It was like
Right.
-9.
Yeah.
Uh, and fortunately, by the time I got off of work, the power came on just as work was ending.
Nice.
But we had already made plans to go out, have dinner somewhere, and then go watch Puss in Boots. Um, which we ended up going out to have dinner. And by the time we got done with dinner, we got tickets for Puss in Boots. We sat down. The kid is with us. She's excited. And then my wife's like, "Dude, I'm so tired. I don't think I'm going to stay awake." So I was like, "All right, let's go home." And our daughter, she looks at us with those puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
And I picked her up and carried her out, hugging her. Like, we went back the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
We will make this right.
We'll come back tomorrow. It's just mommy's not going to make it through the night or going to make it through the movie. I'm struggling a little bit myself. Let's just go home. So we got home, let her stay up. We watched the first Puss in Boots. But
Yeah.
but the whole thing is like, there are times where like you'll have people kind of like turn people's traumas into a fetish, you know, and it's like, oh, we like slumming, we like, going out and like roughing it. And it's like, motherfucker, like that's my life. It's just
Yeah.
not a fucking vacation. It's not a getaway.
Right.
Now I want to fight.
Now I'm just mad.
Fuck them. But yeah, I don't know. It's like when you look at where the baseline level is, from where you're coming from into where you're going, it's like even if you go somewhere worse, you don't know that it's worse because, or I wouldn't say worse, but somewhere that's not as, it's still bad, but it's better than where you were. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, this is fine. Yeah, the house is still burning, but
Yeah.
you know, at least there's a window that's open now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, something you said where it's like there are different kinds of trauma too. And we're talking about like long term childhood, repetitive, complex post traumatic stress disorder. We're talking about a very specific kind. People who witness something terrible or get in a car accident, it's still trauma.
Hmm.
Um, and it may seem like, like what you said, you're like, I've witnessed this horrific thing. Like, how is this benefiting my life? Um, and in the end, it actually does if you learn how to grow through what it's left you with, what that experience left you with isn't helpful. And my God, you can carry that. It can fuck up your life for a real long time. But when you learn how to turn towards yourself when you're having that trauma response, when you're living your life through that like veil of trauma, you turn toward it instead of trying to look out and just making all of these, errors and judgment. And oh boy, does it get messy. But what you can get from that is something they call post-traumatic growth, and it's just learning to have resilience instead of coping mechanisms. You learn how to regulate yourself when you come up against the next shit where you're like, I can't pay my power bill, or the things that stress you out. You'll have these tools where you're like, I know how to deal with what's happening inside of me so that I can just handle this logically and not just sort of flail around in my helpless feeling. And so you
Absolutely.
can actually get stronger after those incidents, even if it feels like you're just probably never going to recover from that.
I feel like when when we go through things even now, having been through just, you know, the childhood that we've had, or the stressors that we've been through, it's like things now, those challenges now, there's a different viewpoint on it. We look at it like you said, you're prepared for it. But and there's some things you can never really be prepared for. But yeah, at least like you say, your body can
Yes.
can react, and
Well,
your mind can react.
so, I mean, I was just sort of held at gunpoint like 3 weeks ago.
Jeez.
while we're while we're talking about it. Um, I dropped my daughter off at school and I was on a freeway overpass getting ready to get on the freeway. So I'm in the center lane turning left. So there's 2 lanes on my left of oncoming traffic and 2 lanes on my right of ongoing traffic, right? There's a woman in front of me at a red light, so I can't go around her. Normally, I leave quite a bit of space between me and the vehicle in front of me, but something happened during the course of this where I thought she was driving forward, so I pulled forward a little bit, and she did not pull forward. Anyway,
Mm.
I saw out of my peripheral vision on my left a man climb up the embankment and sweeping a handgun as though he were clearing a structure, right? I saw the movement out of the corner of my eye and I was like, I know that movement. And I turned and I looked and I accidentally made eye contact with a man pointing a gun at people all over the street. And then he saw me.
You're the one.
Well, I fucking looked over there, didn't I? Um, and so, you know, he's standing to the side of my face and he's moving back and forth where I can't see him in my peripheral and then a little bit forward where I can. And I can see that he's got the gun aimed at my head and he's walking back and forth. And I'm so fucking calm. It's the dumbest shit I've ever felt in my life. I was so fucking calm. I kept looking to see, is this a real weapon? what caliber weapon? Is this a revolver? Is this, you know, what am I dealing with? Is this a veteran experiencing derealization to the point where he doesn't know where he is? Or is this a tweaker who's having an adventure? Is this an angry person who, and now I look like his wife? Like, what am I dealing with over here? And I'm like, you know, ammunition's pretty expensive. Maybe he doesn't have any. I'm trying to look at the bottom of the weapon to see if there's even a magazine in it. Is the slide open? Like, the whole time this is happening, I'm just analyzing, analyzing, analyzing. Only had one, like, crossing thought where I was like, I wonder what fucking hot hell that's gonna feel like if he doesn't just kill me. Like, if this shit like rips through my guts, I wonder what that will feel like. But then
Hmm.
I just went back to analyze the situation, analyze the situation. And I waited long enough, you know, trying to decide if I could move my right arm for my phone to dial 911 without getting shot. How still can you be while you reach for your phone? Can you talk to 911 basically like, you know, what are those fucking ventriloquists?
Yeah.
Can I have a conversation with 911 without moving my lips? I did. Um, but you know, also in between the frustration of the complete lack of situational awareness in the bitch in front of me, just sitting in her car, completely oblivious to the fact that there's no oncoming traffic. We could have run this light. We didn't have to stay here. I didn't have to live this life. But I was on the phone with 911 for like a minute and a half. This guy had a gun pointed at me for close to 2 minutes of my life. And when the light turned green and the woman in front of me drove away, he kept the gun level, pointed at my head as he crossed in front of my vehicle. And when he got to the far side of my vehicle, he ran across those lanes and started pointing the gun at everybody on the freeway. And that's when I got scared. It was the weirdest thing. Like, when it was just him and me, we were locked in this vacuum of analysis. As soon as he started threatening the hundreds of people and he was far away, what was I supposed to do? How can I can't have him doing this to other people? Like, I can handle this. Fucking weird, you know. um but knowing what I know now, you know, I laughed about it later, and there I made some pretty damn good jokes later, as a matter of fact. But knowing what I know about everything, that how trauma goes into your body, you know, that sort of thing, I knew I was driving to work. I had no time to like discharge this energy or like go for a run and make my body understand that I had moved away from that, because I had to sit and do nothing while this happened for 2 minutes. That locks some shit in your body, you know? So I had to go to work and get locked in a small room where I had to take care of other people and be the epitome of Zen, chill, fucking bitch. And the whole time I'm like trying to crawl out of my own skin. And it was finally like my second to last massage of the day. I had my hands on this guy, and in my head, I saw him like cresting up over the embankment again. I saw, you know, it's just like keeps replaying in your head.
Yeah.
But I saw in my head him cresting up over the thing, and I heard in my head, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. And I almost fucking,
Of course.
Jesus Christ,
This Jason Bourne.
that's Jason Bourne. And you know, I just almost started cracking up in the middle of this like quiet ass room. I'm giving this dude a massage. Like, I almost just went into hysterics. but I knew that I was going to be okay then. But I also heard myself later saying something out loud that I didn't mean to say out loud to my spa coworkers who do not need to know this about my life. Where I was like, I've been shot at hella times before, but like this was different. I've been shot at hella times before. I mean, enough, a handful. And this just felt like so personal.
That's what I was just
And then
thinking.
your
It's like, is
coworkers
this
are like,
personal?
excuse me? Do I know this motherfucker? Oh, oh God. But
That's the one thing, even, and thinking about a moment like that too. It's like when you're saying, like, when it was just you and you and him, um, it's like you can handle this moment. Whereas once you start, going at other people, it's like, oh, but can they handle this moment? I know I can. No, no, no. Come back here. Come back here. You know, there's something to that as well, though, that comes with trauma and having gone through just, so much shit prior. It's like, I think about like my daughter in situations. Like I always tell my wife, it's like, she's far smarter than either of us at her age, in so many ways. But, I don't like to be outdone. So I like to point out, yeah, but I'm smarter than her in other ways, though,
yeah, yes,
from that age. But
yeah,
I don't want her to have to, have that intelligence. I don't want her to have the
yes.
street smarts and
No.
understanding, how to navigate the streets. But, that's one of those things, again, though, it's like you would never wish it upon anyone else. And I think that's part of that protector mindset too. It's like, being a parent, period. So, the mama bear, you came out in that moment, and it's like, oh no, he's going after, everybody else. Well, no, 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 come back here, come back here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
Hey,
was
buddy, buddy,
this is
buddy.
our
Eyes on
moment.
me.
This is me and you. Like, this, like I brought you to this dance.
Well,
Like,
you're gonna abandon me too?
like Dad?
I've just been abandoned by my shooter.
It's like, wait a minute, are you leaving me? Fuck, you just like my dad.
You're
Like,
just
what the
like
fuck
my
are you
dad.
doing, dude?
I should have just yelled that out the window as I drove away.
I promise you, he would have been like, "What the
What the
fuck?"
fuck? He probably would have dropped the guy's like, lady,
He
are
would have
you
just,
okay?
yeah, he would have like, "Do you need to talk?" And sat in the passenger seat with you, like, "Look, I'm here if you need me. Right here, I'm gonna put the gun down."
Do you want some of this meth?
Like, yeah, like you can hit this with me.
We're gonna be okay. We'll do this together. Oh God.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah.
Um,
But no, but I hear what you're saying. Well, but also growing up with that kind of childhood trauma. I was the oldest of 6. So I've been responsible for my parents, I've been responsible for my siblings my whole life. So yeah, there's a guy with a gun pointed at my face, and I'm like, all right, so this is happening to me. That's, is that man pointing a gun at me? Of fucking course it is. This is your life. You're fucking weird. Your life is weird. Of course it is. Of course that's happening. But as soon as he started involving other people, I was like, no, no, no. It's like, no. I can't be responsible for the hundreds of people driving on the freeway right now, sir.
like if you hurt them, I don't know what to do. Come back here.
Come back here.
Like, I got something to tell you.
Yeah. You get your ass back here right now.
And I don't know. It's like in these moments, it does good. It gets weird, but also just having to not constantly be in that mode, that fight or flight mode. And sometimes people are just always in it no matter what.
Yes.
Like I think back to something you said before when we might not have been recording. I think we were just talking. Like, I don't know, but like we're talking about our age and how people our age, like peers our age, complain about being old.
Mm,
And you're like, no, like celebrate
mm-mm.
that shit.
Yeah,
Like, 'cause
check it
we know
out.
so many, they haven't made it this far. So,
Dude, like all my friends are dead.
yeah, I mean, it's like every,
Or
joke.
incarcerated.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got, you know, paralyzed,
Yes.
incarcerated,
Yeah.
deceased.
Yeah.
Um, one, we go to a get together every July and October, specifically October, a Halloween party. Um, and my buddy Bobby, who um, is the host of Nerd Rage Radio, you know, he'll hug me after because we'll do a toast to our buddy Brutus, who passed away, 12 years or 13 years this October.
Ooh.
Um, and he'll come over and hug me and say, "Man, it's just us." Because when we used to hang out, growing up, there was this house that we called the World, um, and it was just it was such a bizarre place. It's I can't even describe it, but it was just such a fucking like if you put cameras in there like it was the fucking real world, you'd have a hell of a reality show. Um,
Mm.
you don't know if you're going to walk into a house, of people doing keg stands, you know, lap dances and stripping, drugs, or board games. You know,
Right.
like weird shit. It's just like it was just such a
Yeah.
wacky place. But there were so many different
Sounds like
people that
home.
came through those. Yeah, I mean, and then the thing is that all felt normal to me. That's what's
Yes.
goofy about like moving down here is I didn't necessarily cling to the kids who had like you know a different upbringing than me, who had like just a nicer family unit, where my grandparents were very supportive, but I always ran to hang out with the kids who, oh, you guys, got some shit going on too. Well, I did. Let me come get into
Yeah.
your shit. And we
Yes.
got into chaos. And the thing is, with Bobby, he'll always remind me, is like, look, it's just us two. And like, yeah, that is just the case. It's like it is us two. Out of everyone that came through those doors, you know, a lot of them have passed away, incarcerated.
Yeah.
Uh, one's paralyzed because he tried to fucking rob somebody and he picked the wrong person, so they fucking shot him.
Shot him in the spine right.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
He took off
Yep.
running and he got it. And,
Yep.
and that's just the thing. It's like, when we look
Yep.
back like on that, it's like, there are those moments where you're like, shit, why us? Why did we make it through?
Oh yeah.
You
Oh, that whole survivors thing. Yes. Yes.
and the thing is that I know individuals who've been in even worse situations and then may have even worse survivors remorse than us, because for us it was indirect. It's like this is over the years where like later on things start happening to people. And it's like, well, how do we get out of that? Well, I know for me it was my wife, and for
Right.
him same deal. I mean that's kind of the common denominator there. Is like we both met you know our girlfriends, our wives, and basically we didn't want to risk our relationship for the streets, if for lack of a better term. Um, but I know individuals who are directly involved in situations where you know peers have died and they didn't. And I can only imagine it's so much fucking worse for them, because that's a moment for them that they have to live with. Whereas like Bobby and I, yes, we lost friends along the way, but and it's not saying it's any less tragic or any more tragic, but it's like over the years, there's almost this separation of like, what happened to so and so. Oh, this happened. Oh, damn, dude. We used to be cool like that as kids. What happened to this person? They're locked up. Well, fuck. What happened to this person? Oh, he's paralyzed. Well, goddamn, dude. Why? What happened? You know,
Right.
but it's still, when you start looking at those things too, it's like, well, some of these individuals made choices that you wanted to live that life, and there you are. We didn't.
Yes. Yeah. Well, oh, this whole human predicament is so messy. It's so messy, and just more and more, it becomes apparent that, you know, circling back on that whole social safety thing, we want to know that we're accepted, that somebody's going to be there with us. And when we start to lose that connection, which is something that, social media gives us that false feeling of having social safety and social connection. It's not a replacement for those things. Um, but it becomes more and more apparent that we need each other pretty fucking bad. And we need each other to level up to a point where we stop just looking at our own shit like, I know what's right. I know this. I know that. And you look over at people who we think are fucking up and they're like, he's fucking up. He's fucking suffering. Your friends who are fucking up are suffering, and they need like some grounding. They need connection.
Well, I sometimes wonder now too, just as we age, and I think about that, as a kid, I remember looking at my grandparents and I was like, man, y'all ain't got no friends. Y'all like
What are you guys, assholes?
like, yeah, nobody like you. You're always pretty fucking nice to me. Can't you be nice
Yeah,
to other fucking people?
yeah. What did you do?
Like, why doesn't anybody ever come over and hang out? Like, shit. But, it's like as I'm older now and I start looking, at just kind of life and relationships and connections and stuff. And I try to remind myself, it's like it's not like when we're kids. Like, hey man, you want to go hang out? It's almost like you kind of have to like schedule appointments to hang out with each other. Like, like cats got families now. And those that don't have families, it's like those are the wild ones because it's like, hey man, so I'm going to the Bahamas this week. Can you try to go? Like, no, motherfucker, I gotta take off from work. I got a family. Like, are you paying?
Yeah,
Like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
yeah.
But I do think about kind of the whole social thing though, because I think that's always that acceptance thing is always going to be there. And to some degree, I still kind of handle social media how I handle real life, where it's like I have people that I communicate with that I care about, both in real life and through social media. And I like to think that those people know that I care, yourself being one of those people. Um, and for those who might say whatever, have an opinion one way or the other, and I don't particularly care for the opinion. I handle the shit the same way I handle real life. It's like, oh well, fuck you. Like,
Yeah,
but the
yes,
difference being with social media is I could block you.
right. Or yeah, exactly. I could just get away from there. Get away from there.
Yeah,
Um,
or I could just leave. I have options, but I still try to make it very clear to those that I do care about. Those that I would call friends. It's like I still try to have a connection, even if I take a kind of a breakaway. I still kind of reach out to some degree, just so people are like,
yes,
hey, like I may not be fucking with this crowd, like this entire ocean of people, but I want you motherfuckers to know that like I fucks with you.
Yes. So I really, when I went off social media, when I gave the account away, when all of that happened, I recognize that my experience on social media is not going to be, the way other people experience it. For me, it was becoming a thing where I opened Instagram every morning with a deep sense of responsibility to other people, and I would have 120 messages there, people waiting for something I was responsible for, obviously. um, and I had to go through and open every one of the messages to find out if it was something important or not. And a lot of the times, it was pretty fucking important to that person. Um, you know, I had, due to the nature of the account, and this is why I went, started the schooling I'm in. Um, I was reading a lot of personal trauma. People are like, look, this is what's happening in my gym. My instructor did this, that, and the other thing. My people in my gym are abusing me this way, or I came to jujitsu because of this thing that happened, and so it would just be getting slammed with things that were re-traumatizing myself. I felt like I had done a pretty good job. Look, you know what? I did a fucking great job not encouraging in any way flirtatious solicitations. There weren't dick pics filling up the DMs. It wasn't that kind of thing.
That
However,
makes one of us.
yeah, exactly. Well, Jesus, Jesus. Danny Patrick is basically now living that jits bitch life, and it's fucking hysterical to realize that if we do a podcast again, we're going to be reading his DMs. Um,
I
so
get some of the
wildly
kickback from
inappropriate.
his DMs because I repost like a meme
Oh,
of his
his
every
stuff.
Tuesday,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
people jump in and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like, fortunately, he jumps into the comments himself, so it's
yes.
like, I
Thank
I
you.
don't I don't need to smoke. This is his. I'm just a facilitator. He doesn't even need me to do this. I'm just doing it because I need to fill space.
Well, and I thought it
And
was fucking funny. So,
yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry you
Like,
don't.
that's
But
why I repost it.
yeah, exactly. And this is my shit. And if you don't like what's here, fucking unfollow me harder, daddy. So, Jesus Christ. Anyway, it was so much where it was traumatizing me to the point where I couldn't connect with people in any sense of safety. There were very few people in my messages on a social media platform that were healthy, enjoyable, communication, and it got to the point where I was getting so shut down that I was well below fight or flight on that ladder of regulation. I was just down at the bottom where it's like I'm in a hole under a rock in a cave. I can't feel anything any of you are saying to me. I can't feel anything that I feel outwardly. And so, even though there were people around saying, we love you, you've done so much, you're so helpful, all of these, I couldn't feel anything. And I knew I had to do something because that's not me. I'm like warm and squishy and loving to the point where it's pretty disgusting. So, to be getting to the point where I was like, that's weird. I don't feel anything. I was like, oh. I have to do something because I've seen well, and how much of my personal life do I talk about on a pod? I'll talk about my trauma all day, but like real personal things. Um, I spent a lot of years of my life with somebody who was a combat veteran and really just incapable of connecting emotionally for any length of time. He would come and go, he'd disappear for 6 weeks, just be gone. And so I was living that reality too, and just all of those things together. I had no um, human connection, no safety in that, and because I had already seen what happens when somebody reaches that point and they get that shut down, it is incredibly difficult to get out of that, and I don't have that option. I don't have that option. I don't live a life where I have the privilege of just like checking out and going, fuck it, I'll, get this next round or whatever comes next or whatever. I got responsibilities. And so I had to get up and save myself and, you know, walk away from what I felt was my responsibilities to just an awful lot of people every day. An awful lot of people. Like, I was so grateful the day Instagram switched from telling you how many messages you actually had to just going out, like, we max out at 20. We'll just tell you it's 20. That's like, thanks. It feels more manageable. And you open it and you're all, it's not.
You lie. You lied to
It's
me
not.
again.
None of this is manageable. I need a help.
Yeah, Instagram has a way of making you think
Manipulating the
one
shit out of you.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, hey, yeah, it's safe. It's all good. It's all good. Just kidding.
You can just come on in here. Just come on. It's just a full-size candy bar. Come on.
Get in my shopping cart. It's okay.
It's all right.
I'll push you around the block twice.
2 times. Eat what you want in there. So that, and there we are. That's where that dark humor thing gets in, which is also part of it too. Like, I get along with combat veterans so well because we have the most horrid meme collections, sense of humor, just like sending things to each other where it's like, oh, that's wrong.
To the wrong person, it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're making jokes about a guy who literally abducted children.
Yeah, that's kind of wrong.
It's fucked up, but we're like, he didn't kidnap you. Something must be wrong with you.
Yeah, I can make all the jokes. He didn't get me. I'm
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, look at that. I made it. Escaped that one too.
There's still time.
Right. I mean,
I'm only 45, so
give it time. Yeah. Yeah. People live longer and longer now anyway. Some of them.
Fortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I know at one point, when you're running the account, you like just see. I would always, kind of talk, out of Instagram about, some of the stuff I would see you doing, and it was, in a good way, in a positive way. Just speaking of how you are a positive influence, and the thing is, I encounter individuals through, because of you. I'd meet, other, um, I guess Instagrammers, if you will. Because of you, because there's still some people every so often I see them pop up, and I'm like, how do I know? Who are you? Oh, like, oh, okay, that's how I know you. And that, that's not to like kind of, dismiss them or anything. It's just like I always try to have some understanding of connection as to, is it someone that I just happened upon, or they happened upon me, or did I meet you through reposting something of this person, and then we struck up a conversation,
Right.
things like that. But I remember seeing a few of your posts, and you're always putting up, GoFundmes and fundraisers for people, and that was just one of those things where you look at it and it's like, and maybe I've learned from it on my own end as well, because with you there's kind of this burnout and this sense of responsibility, like you have to do it, you have to help, and ideally, you know I'm that way too.
Oh yeah.
I think seeing like what it's done to you, and also just going through my own therapies and stuff with my therapist, realizing, hey, you can't rescue everyone.
No.
I do it less and less, but it's like I've kind of made it where people just know, they just, if they tag me in something, I'm just going to repost it in the stories type deal.
Yeah.
But when there's a matter of like um Kamora Mama,
Yeah.
Ashley, you,
Ashley.
I saw her post, and she didn't ask me or anything. She didn't say anything to me. I just started reposting the GoFundMe for her, and just looking, I was like, look, I don't have to do this. She didn't ask me to do it, but I want to help however I can. Um,
Yes.
and then Amy, Hybrid Healer,
Yes.
same deal. She didn't reach out or anything. I was just like, and part of that is, seeing what you've done and how you've helped people. I want to help too, but I also have kind of this marker in my head of knowing, like, look, I know this also is what pushed you away, is
Well,
feeling a sense of having to help.
you know what it was? It was that I was trying to do these things. I've learned a lot from that. You can do all of that. You can do the philanthropy, you can do, fundraising, you can help people out, no problem. What was burning me out was all the dudes every day who, it wasn't necessarily flirtatiousness, it wasn't anything like that, but it was this constant need for attention. My time, my awareness, my consciousness was constantly on these other people, and it was like getting in the way of what I was trying to do. And so definitely what I've learned is, like, if someone were going to set something up, that's why we have organizations, that's why we have nonprofits, because you set something up that's an entity, it's not a person, it's not a, right? And there is a functional way to help with very clear boundaries on what those communications are, what those responsibilities are, and it becomes tasks to do. It's just the fucking work. You just do the work without all of the convoluted human predicament part in it, which gets mixed up. Every now and then some guys, like, those messages I'd get where I'd just have to tell them, like, you must be new. Like, just go from here. You
It's like, oh
don't,
my god, there's still new people signing up for Instagram. Wow, I guess
well,
we found one.
or you must be new to this page, because I don't know if you've seen what I do to guys who send messages like this, but I'm farming you for comedy. Um, keep it up, buddy. This is getting good. But so, you know, if I were to do something like that again, to build a community page, that sort of thing, um, I feel like it would have to be just something that's just far more focused, a lot of boundaries, and learning how to just leave people on red that aren't contributing to the goal, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was about me learning how to navigate my own, right? Like, people pleasing or like what my sense of responsibility was to people that I have no responsibility to. I don't have a responsibility to answer your messages. You know, if you guys are messaging and I'm obviously just sort of like blah, 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 fucking figure it out.
Seems simple enough, but people.
People. Well, but that's it too, is it's not, I didn't want my view of the world and of people to be what it was starting to be. You know, I don't want that. I want, leave me my delusions is something I tell people all the time.
Fair.
Just leave me my delusions. I'm so much happier when I think that we're all in this together and we're all self-aware and we're all trying.
Well, I feel like that's the thing though too. Is like, when people don't, it's like, what's the saying? I'm gonna butcher it, so I'm not even gonna say it because I can't even fucking remember it anymore. But it has something to do with what's happening to me right now. I can't fucking remember because I'm dumb. So it's like something to the effect of like, if people think you're dumb, just let them think you, but don't open your mouth and let them confirm that you're dumb. Some bullshit. I'm gonna edit that out.
No, don't edit it out because I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But that's it. It's like, yeah, if somebody walks in the room and thinks you're a fool, it's better to stay silent than to speak up and prove him right. Like, yeah, you said it.
Something like that. But yeah, it's like that's the thing with like a lot of social media too. It's like, I put up some post a couple days ago with a girl in competition where she kicked the girl off of her, sent her through the air.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, like the comments were all relatively positive. I think there are two people who were like, "Oh, that was unfair. How's that not a foul?" But that falls into that pocket where it's like it's not even so much about majority rules. Well, everybody says it's fair, so it's fair. But I mean, the referee didn't call it foul,
right?
So it's just fair. And that's not to say all the referees are, all knowing and the best. But I mean, look, the ref, it was fine.
Right. Right. There's a lot of that too, though.
Like people like to speak up when, like everyone on the internet is an expert.
Yeah. Yeah. I would get a lot of that too. The guys who come in, I made one of those vintage comic memes once where like this chick is laying on her back on a picnic blanket on the grass and she's got her hand on her temple and she's sort of looking away from the guy who's leaning over her, and it said, "Did you just fart?" And she was like, "I had protein shakes for lunch." Like, this is a joke about fart milk. This is a joke about protein shakes giving you farts. People, farts are funny. And I get this guy who goes in the comments, I remember, he was like, "Who eats protein before a workout?" but that's fascinating, right? It's like, you don't have protein all day until after you work out. How do you know she didn't work out before lunch? Do you only work out in the evening? Is your existence the only existence there is? Like, just
that's what I
shut the fuck up and laugh at the thing.
I definitely get a lot of that where like, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with stuff where it's like, their existence is the only existence they know. So it's like, but it's hard for, it's like, it's hard for them to see, oh, well, people might work out at other times of the day. They might drink their protein shakes at a different time of the day.
Maybe that chick gets up in the morning, does her workout, and then has her protein shake. I mean, but it just, why do you feel the need? What is it? What is that? Actually, I've read a lot of books about what that is. We won't go into it. That's a whole other thing.
I mean, that's the thing. The internet gives everybody the opportunity to voice their opinion, And like I said, when it comes to the internet, everyone's an expert. So, which is funny because I've seen lawyers get into arguments with people on the internet. It's like, dude, you don't even have to. You have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
Like why are you arguing with this guy on the internet? That's why, like right now, whenever I post, I read the comments. I don't go in and interact in the comments
Mm.
because, like, first off, I don't need to have a battle with you over the internet. Like, I did come across a post I put up on TikTok, um, before Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier the third time.
Mm.
And in an interview, I didn't put up the interview yet. I just put up a picture of the quote. And he says, "I only count knockouts.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
don't
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't count tapping,
Yeah.
all this other shit." And someone goes in the comments and goes, "The only thing is he didn't say that though." And I replied back, I was like, "But he did." He was like, "No, he didn't." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So I went and found the exact sound clip, reposted it, and tagged that person in the post. Said, "Hey, so here it is."
Yeah.
And that only comes up because I just started posting on TikTok again today. And I went back to that comment because I was like, I thought that was pretty funny. Let me go back and look at it. Oh, his account is deleted because he's no longer there.
Right.
But it's like people will argue anything on the internet, and it's like if you give the energy back and argue with them, then you just did what they wanted. You just stoop to their level. Now you just prove that you're both fucking dummies. And
Yes.
when I see lawyers, arguing with people on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, it's like, God, come on, dude, you're better than this, aren't you?
Aren't you? Well, but no, but see, that also that also helps you and I, people like you and I, with our sort of biases toward people we assume are somehow better than us because they've accomplished the thing. Somehow they became a lawyer, which means that at some point they were actually interested in justice or something. Wrong. Wrong. These are probably just people who like to argue. So
True. Yeah.
there they are.
True. Yeah. Good point.
Or they didn't even want to become lawyers, but their parents made them become lawyers, and now they
Oh,
just like to argue. So, I mean, you just never know. There's no, they aren't better than that. Nobody's better than that, you know?
yeah. Like, I used to want to be a lawyer until I realized that, I don't really want to argue. Actually, the watching The Devil's Advocate made me not want to be a lawyer.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, I keep every time it comes up, I'm like, I gotta watch that tonight, and then I don't. And I'm not gonna watch tonight either. I think I gotta watch Wishmaster or something. I don't fucking know what
Mm.
I gotta watch. But that made me say, no, I don't think I'm gonna be a lawyer now. Like, just looking at the whole, you gotta win the case, and then he ended up having to defend the teacher, just shit like that. I was like, nope, I don't think that's something I want to do. And then I realized it's a lot of work. I'm not about that life. So
Yeah. Yeah, there is that whole a lot of work part.
if you say a lot of work, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and check out now. That's why I do
Yeah.
podcasts.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Just plug
Yeah.
in, just say nonsense. And they're like, dude, like that's a lot of work. No, dude, like I recorded between Friday and Sunday, 4 episodes. So about 8 hours of podcasting. Like, dude, that's a lot. I was like, no, dude, I'm just talking.
Right. I'm just hanging out with my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I like these people. So it's not really a lot. It's actually okay. But like doing like shit like lawyer and doctor shit and like
Yeah.
shit where you gotta do like a lot of hard work. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. See, I work pretty fucking hard.
Mhm.
Um, I work pretty fucking hard, and it's a lot to keep track of everybody's everything and all that sort of thing. But I love my work. I love what I do. And that was another thing too, is that, you know, I'm a helper person. I know this. Um, and I need to have an outlet for that helping. And just being shut down during the pandemic, I had not a lot of outlet for my helperness. but being able to sort of like get set free and come back to work has given me the opportunity to remember why the fuck I do what I do in the first place, and to remember that, you know, you just do what you can with what you have where you are, right?
Yeah.
Each of my clients that I work with, and, you know, whether it's body work or trauma work, whatever, and they're floating out of my office and you can tell something positive has happened for that person, bam, done. I have done something today.
What are you giving back?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a person doing people things.
And I think that's, an important thing though too is, in our day-to-day lives, our work, I don't think just work, but just period. Um, Having the ability to give back, having the ability to help or contribute or, whatever it may be. I always talk to my manager about that at work. It's like, dude, we're not fucking helping anybody. We're just stealing money from people. This shit is trash. I don't fucking do this.
Yeah.
And and even with that, it's like there are people we're helping. When people come in, they pour their hearts out. You sit there and talk with them, and listen to them, and strike up a relationship. And it's like, okay, there is some moments of helping others.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's it. I mean, it's part of that seeking social safety thing, seeking human connection. Some of us get so shut down that we stop seeking it at all, which is where I was headed, right? People were reaching out to me and trying to connect with me or connect to me. And I was just like, the little beauty dude, we're sorry. The number you're trying to reach has fucking left the planet. Um, you know, but we don't just want to receive social safety. It's a two-way street. We want to know that, we're contributing, we're productive, we're worth something. It helps us reestablish our sense of worth, and
Very
reaffirming
true.
to ourselves, that these things happen in the world, right? Where you're like, you know what? I could fucking help you. And that tells me that in the world, helping happens. Because sometimes I fucking need help, you know? Need to know it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, my daughter tonight for bedtime, we listen to, she always gets a quiet song, as she calls it, before bed. And sometimes it's Mariah Carey, Shake It Off. Um, uh, no, like we do some Mariah Carey songs, but not that one. But
No.
like she wanted to hear What the World Needs Now, and just listen to that. And we used to sing that song a lot. And I remember when just everything was happening in 2020, and that's when the song was really big for her. And I remember thinking, like, man, like my 4-year-old has a better understanding of what the world needs than a
The
bunch of fucking
world.
adults. Yeah, the world. Like, and even just like when she sang it tonight, because what I do is I have my earbuds in, and I'll give her the other earbud, and I turn the music on. I was like, I'll be right back, and I come back to the room, and she's singing her little heart out to the song. And it just was that reminder, especially just again, just with everything that's going on, is like, yeah, this 6-year-old now has a fucking better grasp on what the world needs right now. It's love. I mean, we all need to care more, but I don't know. It's tough. I don't think it's tough to care. I think
It
it's
is
tough.
tough to care.
I think it's tough to understand, which then kind of, because there are a lot of people that I think they care, but then it gets to another point of caring in situations like not understanding another party's side enough to care.
Well, okay, so but that's it, is that we are on a mass scale beginning to lack empathy as a world society, um to levels that I can't even comprehend. And that was something, that social media was reaffirming to me constantly, was that people just have no empathy. They take no time to, and I say they, but there's,
Yeah.
and here's the other fun fact, is that I can tell you that the people who are not on social media, if you just go outside and you talk to people who aren't on social media, they aren't anything like the people who are on social media. And so when you spend all of your time on social media and you get these, things affirmed to you, that the the world is lacking empathy, that people really just are becoming more and more psychopathic, sociopathic through social media, because you can just say whatever the fuck you want to anybody. Ain't nothing, you know it encourages separation in so many ways. And it, yeah, it's something I really, really hope people check into, is ensuring that, you're not just contaminating your brain with these things nonstop too. It took a lot for me to cultivate the page I had, to the point where people didn't troll. I didn't get a lot of that. I didn't get it. It really, but it took so much work to sort of be like, no, we're not going to have that experience here. This
I
little
thought
corner of the fucking internet.
I thought I was getting around it, and I had like a little system, but the trolls don't care. Now, basically, you have to follow me to leave a comment,
Oh,
and I was like, yeah, well, I think that's part of why I have so many follows, because I'll post something, people, oh, I gotta say something, and then they forget to unfollow.
yeah.
Um, but I got to this point where people would say something shitty, and if I did want to respond, and this was very rare, I think I've done it 3 times now, where I just go to them and say thanks for the follow. And this one guy came back at me in the DMs and was like, "There, I unfollowed you, you fucking cunt."
Oh,
I was like, "Okay," or I just gave him a smiley face. I was like, "Okay," and then he had more to say because I gave him a smiley face. I was like, "Jesus Christ, dude, relax."
right,
Um,
right,
but
right.
but that's that whole social media thing, because there's no face, there's no person attached to it, there's no physical. Although where I live at, in the area that I work in, there are a lot of people that got some bold things to say, like
Yeah.
quite frequently, and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe you said that out loud in here. But okay, I mean,
Where somebody could just, reach out and touch me. But
yeah,
that's what I'm saying, is it's like, it's creating a different social environment. And it's not just online that people behave that way anymore. It's spreading. If you're on social media and you're out running around, chances are you've begun to engage with the world differently. And I absolutely did. In a lot of ways, having that account specifically, and having to go through the growing pains I went through to get to the point where I'm like, unfollow me harder. Everybody's like, how do I get people to follow me? This is like such a vulnerable thing. Everything I put out, I'm like, oh, I should have done this at a different time of day. I shouldn't have said it that way. Oh, fuck, there's a typo. What's gonna
yeah,
happen? Some people didn't like it. Oh my God, I'm trash. Why? Fuck. Putting myself under that kind of pressure long enough, though, got me to a completely different level of the fuckets that I have never had before as a socially anxious human being. I am so much more confident. I don't give a fuck about so many of the things I used to give a fuck about. Like if somebody talks shit to me now, I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, just give the smiley face, laugh.
Right on, man.
Like, okay.
You have a good fucking day.
Yeah, it's like, all right, go enjoy that misery that you're eating over there. I'm gonna go chuckle, dickhead.
Yeah, you're all caught up in your shit, man. Fucking caught up in your fucking trip, man.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's, I mean, all of this, the social media, and not even just that podcast too. You know,
Yeah.
it's becoming a weird way of communicating. I mean, yeah, I made the podcast mostly because during COVID I couldn't see or talk to anybody, so I was like, "Fuck it." And most of my friends in real life, like friends that I grew up with, they don't like to talk on the phone. So I was like, "Here," but if you say, "Hey, you want to be on my podcast?" Dude, they're willing to sit down and talk for hours. So I was like, "You fucking weirdo."
But that's it, right? Because now they get to that chance to open themselves to broader social acceptance and social safety.
Yeah, I've had episodes I've recorded with friends that I ended up not putting out because you could like I got the sense as we're because like you and I we're talking
Yeah,
like like I told you in the beginning, I get nervous and I'm having like a mini panic attack, but once we get rolling it's just a conversation.
we're just talking.
But I've had people on where they're like, "Oh man, I've never done a podcast before. I'm nervous." And then they get on, and then you could tell they're trying to put on a performance. Like, motherfucker, I've known you all my life. You've never spoken like that. You've never said things like that. You've never sounded like
When
that.
did you start rolling your R's? For the love of God, don't stop.
It's like, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? But I've had episodes where I refuse to put out because it's like, okay, you're putting on that. I'll say some bullshit like, "Oh no, the audio got weird." Something goofy. It's like we got to
Well,
record
now
that
you're
again.
ratting on yourself.
Fuck them. Like they know who they are.
You know why.
But we'll sit down and record again with the hopes that okay, maybe it'll be their natural selves. Which it turns out like okay, that second time, it's just them being them. But it's exactly what you say. There's this opportunity now to reach a broader audience. Which I mean, to be honest, my podcast, no, not really. Like,
Hi. You're all look, I made $7 on Anchor.
like, well, no, that's the horror podcast. It's like nobody listens to that shit, and that's the one that you figure people would listen to. I actually
Yeah.
put work into that podcast. Like,
I actually listened to it to make sure it was okay.
oh no, I don't do that. But
no, don't get carried away.
Relax. Oh, listen to it. But like we're doing like horror on like different decades, and like I put in like research and I'm studying, I'm watching movies. I'm super excited about that. It's like they're like, yeah, cool, great work, dummy. We're not listening to that. Go like put us onto the one where you're like talking shit though. I was like, oh, okay. Like, great.
I mean, I like doing that too, I guess, or whatever.
Like let us listen to the one where you're drinking beer and taking edibles. Like, okay. I guess you just want to see me self-destruct at this point.
But that's what I was just gonna say, is that's another thing that I felt so strongly with the account. And even just now, even logging into the one that was my backup account, where it literally used to say, "I'm just here to unfurl a little bit. I have no idea what this is going to be," but people ran over to follow it. I don't know what the fuck they were expecting, but I laugh when I post anything now, just normal person posting things. It's not, I'm not coming from that place where I'm like, I will entertain you today. Just posting some shit. And it's interesting. I don't know what they want. What the fuck do you people want? Because I really get this feeling where they're like, that's right, dance, entertain us.
Yeah, I do think people to some degree have that ideal too when it comes to our social medias, when it comes to podcasts, and it's like your entertainment. And
Yeah, I'm not a performer. I'm just a person.
that's what I had to tell my co-host when we started our other show. I was like, "Look, dude, I'm not doing this like this is us. We're friends. We're talking. We're drinking beer and talking. I mean, and we'll put it out there for people to hear, but it's not a performance. I'm not doing shit to entertain people. I'm not doing special segments, so people can laugh and think, oh, listen to these practical jokers. And granted, we might say some shit that might come off to be, funny to some. That's cool, but it's not like we're like, hey, I wrote this joke for the podcast tonight. Like, no, it's just if you catch a moment where I say something funny, that's it. But it's not with the intent of being, an entertainer. It's just me talking with a friend while reviewing a beer that I don't even like. It's like,
Right.
it
So you
tastes
can
like
listen to
fucking
me suffer that
shit.
way.
Yeah. But but it's like I think part of the thing is when people follow into the other account too is like there's connection, because I get people uh trying to follow my personal account and I don't accept a lot. Well, let me rephrase that. I initially, because that was my original account, so I had followers on there. People just following, not like, oh, what's Dante up to today? And then I made it private
Yeah.
once I started BJJ Wiki, and then I get some crossover from there, from BJJ Wiki to there, and it was kind of a, I don't really need to accept that follow request, because I rarely post on there. When I do, it's just a regular, like, it's usually like an obscene, like not obscene, but just kind of like off the wall type meme where it's like I think I posted a picture of like a rancher holding a fucking rooster, and it was like all black, and I'm not even going to go into what it was insinuating, but we can probably
You don't
guess.
have to. That's fine.
But it was
I'm
like,
already there.
but like I post shit like that, just kind of like off the random, and it's like, hey, don't forget I'm still alive, and I do shit
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah.
but and that's friends and family. So that's my cousins, my sisters, and shit. Like, oh my god, he is still alive. That's inappropriate.
Yep.
But we're gonna laugh.
There he goes. There he is.
Yeah, and then you won't see anything for another 2 months. But that's the thing. It's like I think people want to have that connection. Like, oh, because I have a lot of different accounts, and there are a lot of people that follow all the accounts, which to some degree, I look at certain people that follow. It's like, thanks for the support. I know they're following it, out of support. I think there are others that are following to see, like, well, what's he doing over here? It's like nothing, actually. Like, some of these accounts I don't post at all. I just use them to like other shit that I do to make other people think, oh, he has a following. I don't. Like, all I have is
Yes.
a bunch of different emails, and I use those emails to get free trials on things.
Yeah. Well, this is the way. Um. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I need to update my Disney.
It is also time for a new email. But but I have moments where I'm like, well, I don't know. What did I did one a couple weeks ago just for funsies to see if I still had it. I did one of my free bad advice in my stories, and that was always a big hit. People really like that, and I actually sort of thrive on that kind of comedic environment where if you give me something, I will immediately fuck it up and make it funny.
I think I
I
sent
do
the
well that way.
question. I think like when you did the free bad advice, I'm pretty certain I can't remember what I asked though, but it was whatever it was you responded, and it was pretty funny. I was like, okay, she still got it.
So I'm still there, but I just think in that way, comedy can be intelligent and witty and engaging, and it's a two-way thing. We're both benefiting from it. I can still see if my emotional intelligence is high, that sort of thing. And it makes me wonder if I should maybe I could do that, or I liked making the vintage jujitsu art pieces, you know what I mean? The Photoshop
Yeah,
things that are just, yeah, I like doing those. Um, but then, I don't know. I don't know. I really just want to like live my life where people don't have expectations on me.
understandable.
I'm like, God, you guys.
Well, I wonder though too with that is if it. I wonder if that's a thing though too with you being a female.
Oh, that's part of it. Although I'm really happy, like Danny Patrick was getting some message recently. I mean, just in the last couple days from some guy who was like, "I'll show you the size of my condoms." I mean, not on my cock. You know what I mean? It was like, damn, you get some weird shit too, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm happy about it.
Well, I had a guest recently. Um, I cut the part out of the episode. I can't. They we basically like we're sitting here talking, and he shows me his keys, and he's talking about like, oh, I have. Essentially, he was alluding to he had a cock ring on his key ring.
Ah,
He's like, well,
well,
I
that's where I
don't
keep
use this.
mine.
Well, exactly when he said, it was like, okay, that's gross. I was like, well, no, I don't use this one. And it was like massive. And I'm like, it's about the fucking size of this ring light that I have here. And I'm just thinking, like, okay, that's cool. I don't feel comfortable with you here in my basement with me right now
Can you go somewhere that isn't here now?
because he's a big fella. And I don't care how much jujitsu I know. Like,
Now I feel a
I'm,
little threatened.
yeah, I'm not getting out of this unscathed. So, but like, there are some. We think there are 8 billion people on the planet. There's bound to be a bunch of weirdos. Well, I don't want to say weirdos, but interesting cats.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Depends on how you
but
interpret weirdos. Because I think weirdos are pretty great.
yeah, I'm a weirdo. I mean, we're all
Yeah.
weirdos.
Uh huh.
Um, but it's like with the expectation thing, I often wonder if that's, a male to female thing. I don't, and maybe people message me with expectations. I don't know. Maybe I'm like too dumb to realize that people are like expect me to do something and I just post as I post because like I'm a creature of habit. I know at this time I post a meme, I post a technique video, and then I promote something. And that's just the way my cycle goes. And if someone sends me a message saying, hey man, do the thing, it's like, well, I mean, I got a queue over here. So
Yeah.
whatever's next to the queue goes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's just my blind ignorance.
Well,
Um,
I also think that because I was creating, right, it was all coming from me.
yeah,
And so people were like, I only like when you do that one thing. And I'm like, oh, that's nice.
it's like, oh, okay. Like,
Tune in on fucking Tuesdays.
yeah, it's like okay, like I'm here. Like are you telling me to do that thing? Like, well, yeah, like, all right, well, what's today? Thursday? Well, next Tuesday, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, be here,
Yeah. Yeah.
or Friday or whatever fucking day it is. It's like I think too. It's like when you have kind of a timetable when you do things, it's like you get it. It's like okay, I'm going to do this at this point. Versus if you did it all the time, it's like taking the drug. If you take it all the time, you know,
It
you
stops
OD.
being super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I can't tell you how much like smoking all this meth in this basement, it just got boring.
All of a sudden, I just like it sucks now.
Yeah. It used to be cool
Yeah.
until I became a junkie. Now it's not cool. Now I'm
Now
just
it's
sitting here.
yeah, doing nothing really fast, talking to the people in the wall.
Like I got a microphone and some meth. Like, really? Like you got a whole bunch of new friends now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that was a Beck song. Um. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, look, I enjoy talking with you, and I'm glad that you're back.
Well, thank you. I mean,
Personally,
yeah, but that's it. Like, I can't tell how back I am because I'm
well,
still like going into freeze trauma response mode when certain things happen on social
well,
media. I start going,
so I think when I say back, I mean it like just in any like you're there versus
yeah, just
like
off in the nether.
like when you left,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no. But then there was also that like I hope she's okay. Like
Yeah, I
because
almost
I wasn't.
didn't make it, you guys. Like, we can wrap up the end of this podcast. But I almost didn't make it, you guys. I was not going to make it. And a lot of fucking people helped me out. It was, and now I'm at a place where I can actually feel that without shame or, you know what I mean? Where it's like, damn, that was life affirming. But I wasn't going to make it. I was in a really bad place. It's getting pretty heavy over here.
I'm sorry.
It's
Like
okay. Here we are.
no, I know, but I think about because like when you initially left, that was a thought. Like, oh man, like hope everything's okay. Um, and then you messaged me, and I was like, okay. I felt like a sense of relief. Like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, she's okay. But I think that's also kind of a thing though for people to understand and know. It's like we have a life outside of those phones, outside of social media, you know, and that comes first, contrary to what people may want to believe.
Yeah. 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 It was really amazing too, going back to work, taking a job outside of my own practice and going to a place where there are several massage therapists working all at the same time. And they wanted to put me in a group chat. And I was like, nope. And I did it for a minute, and then I watched people I work with start to like tear each other apart, like healers. These are like hippie ass fucking healer, body working fucking people with a complete lack of empathy for each other, trying to tear each other apart in a fucking group chat. And I'm sitting there looking at this shit like, y'all know you gotta see each other tomorrow, right? Like, this isn't fucking. Like,
Yeah.
you guys gonna have to show up at work and look at each other's eyeballs. But I was laughing because they're asking me if I checked the thing, did I see the thing? And I had to explain to them that I don't have the same relationship with my phone that you have. When I have space in between my appointments, when I'm on my break, I am this is what I've been doing, guys. I am doing breathing exercises and chanting. I'm finding a quiet place away from guests where people can't see me. And I'm literally doing Buddhist chanting and trying to just like be okay in my own fucking heart and head. And the last thing I want to do is hold that fucking rectangle from hell up to my eyeballs and let it suck another minute of my life away.
I think more people need to get in tune with that and understand that, myself included.
It's eating your life. It's
Hmm.
beautiful to look at, like other people having amazing mountain adventures and living their dream life in a van somewhere. And all of these videos I see of people doing super cool shit that I will never fucking do because I'm too busy staring at this thing like it's the Dark Crystal and I'm a fucking gelfling. It's just, that's it. It is sucking my life out of my face. And as soon as I put that down and it's not even part of my consciousness anymore, my life has improved 100-fold in the last year not being on social media.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll end on that note.
And I just talked myself out of it. Bye, everyone.
um, Toni, it's always great talking with you, communicating with you in any form, whether it be through podcasts, whether it be through Messenger.
Yeah.
Like, you're a cool kid.
I fucking love you, man.
Love you too. Love you too. I won't do the normal exit with you just as we're. I don't want people cry like conversion in on you, like, oh, there she is. Let's go jump on her social media.
Yeah,
So
don't even worry about it. Don't send people here. I'm trying to get people to unfollow me.
yeah, I ain't saying nobody. I'm not even gonna tag you in the post.
Don't. You're like, if you know this fucking chick, then I mean, whatever. I do want, if people want to hear some of these things, then go for it. But and that, yeah.
I think again when it comes to it all, this form of communication, it's just us talking, just having a conversation. If people are going to listen to it, cool. If not, cool. I at the end of it all, we're just a couple kids out here just talking. And when I post it, like I said, no need to tag. Those who
Yeah.
listen, they know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to put it out there, because I think, we had important conversations. If you want to let people know who that was or anything, but for the love of God, I mean, I love people, and maybe that'll happen too. The more genuine I become, the more I actually move into this from a place of wanting to help people with trauma responsibly, then those people will show up and the rest hopefully will fall away.
Well, I think those that genuinely get it, those will be the ones that it matters for.
Yeah.
So, but
I
we
hope
got
our
this, kid.
conversations help people. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think we're pretty neat.
I like to think that the conversations help people. Someone. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
like I said, like for all the people that do listen to this, if even one person gains from this,
Awesome.
it matters.
It does matter.
So, yeah. But
All
Toni,
right, my
thank
friend.
you for sharing your time with me.
Thank you.
And all you other cats listen to this. Thank you. Love you guys. We appreciate the hell out of you. If y'all got any questions, concerns, criticisms, always feel free to reach out to me at bjj.wiki on Instagram or Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram. I'd like to give a big shout out to Nerd Rage Radio. As always, Bobby, Chris, Joe, Marilyn, Phil, Ricky Tiki. Who the fuck else? There's I don't have the mug down here right now, but there's a bunch of y'all. Love you guys. This won't be out for a while, but I'll be seeing Phil and Joe tomorrow anyway when we record and talk about Wishmaster, which will be on the So You Like Horror podcast. So shout out to that as well. Go listen to that. We're talking about horror through the decades. We just did the 1920s. We got one coming up for the 1930s and working on the 40s right now, getting some notes taken, trying to have a fun time with it. So go listen to those as well. Otherwise, as always, I love you guys. You guys keep listening. I'm going to keep making these shows. Thank you, everyone, and bye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.